It's all about Pizazz, this elite entertainment show that captures the glitz, glamour, vitality, and flair of Houston.
We'll feature interviews with individuals that are making an impact in the community, such as celebrities, business professionals, athletes, artists, stylists. The list goes on and on.
We'll cover topics such as fashion, fitness, beauty, entertainment, and business, along with showcasing Houston's hottest spots, private events, fashion shows, and behind-the-scenes footage. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in today. It's all about Pizazz.
We're back, right?
That's right. And we're here always to give you interviews with movers and shakers, people that are out in the community making a difference, right?
Huge impact. That's all we want. We just people that are actually making an impact in the community. And we're glad because we are here with no other than Adrian Garcia, Commissioner of Houston. And we definitely want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here at All About Pizazz.
There we go.
That's right. We're definitely going to give you some Pizazz. Nice. So, Adrian, you grew up the youngest of 6 kids.
That's correct.
And I want to know what life was like in the Garcia family growing up.
Oh, Lord. Well, look, if anybody has ever been the baby of the family, I got your back, man, because when you're growing up with 4 older brothers, you have to fight for your food, and then you have to fight to survive amongst the boys.
Oh, my goodness.
All I hear is fighting in there.
It was all good. We were just boys, you know.
Yeah.
And, but it was I was blessed to have an incredible number of role models in my family. Obviously, my mom and dad, not to be excluded, but my oldest brother was a musician, and an old sax player, and I would sit. He'd let me because he's the oldest. I'm the baby, but he would let me sit in the room as they rehearsed, and then I got to be a little bit of a roadie back in the day.
Oh man!
Nice.
And help them set up.
Did you play instruments?
Got to tell the girls I'm with the band.
Yeah, I'm with the band. Here we go.
I'm an essential part of the band. And then my second oldest, I call him the brains of the family because he was the first one to go to college and graduated from U of H and Texas Southern from Thurgood College of Law. Yeah. He's a practicing lawyer in town. Then my other brother became the first police officer in our family.
Oh man!
And then my other brother was the artist of the family. He was just so incredibly gifted with photography or sculpture, painting, sketching, whatever the medium was. He could
very talented
very
family,
very
gifted family.
Yeah.
Had their
And
own
then our
niche.
sister, the queen of the family, she is now a CPA and working for the Social Security Administration. So just always having an incredible number of folks that provided an example and guidance as we were growing up. But we were a humble family.
Yes.
And the other day I went and visited a community, and they were showing me that this is their what they commonly or affectionately refer to as our government food section. Oh, and I'm like, I know a little bit about this. I went and picked up my peanut butter
and got my portion
with Mama.
Really.
Or as the guys back in the neighborhood would say, you're just eating your government cheese. You're right, and it was good.
That's right.
And it was good.
That's right. Available in there.
So that was life growing up. But I was so blessed to have the family that I had and the experiences I had growing up, it was just an incredible journey.
To tell us a little bit about who's that the mentor that just inspired you the most growing up, even more from a personal development standpoint.
There's been so many people in my life that have touched me in some form or fashion, but I got to go back to my mom and dad.
And
that's
where the roots start.
Yeah. I mean, look. I'm the only American born in my family,
Okay.
So my family immigrated to Houston in 1959.
Okay.
My dad had been a guest worker and worked here in the 40s, trying to make money so he can go back home and get married to my mom.
Okay, man.
Started the family in Mexico City. So all my brothers and my sister were born in Mexico City.
Okay.
And then decided, you know what, we want something better for the family. So he brought us all to Houston. The original plan was to get us to California because that's where he had been a migrant worker at.
Okay.
And worked on the rail lines. So he knew California, didn't know Texas. But the immigration department, I guess, said, you know, California doesn't want families anymore. You ought to go look at Texas.
Man. Yeah.
So he wrote or talked to people back home, and it was a member of the Mexican Lebanese community that told my dad, my brother lives in Houston. He has a gas station, and he said he'll give you a job if you want to go to Houston. That's how we got to Houston.
Okay,
Wow,
all right.
that's
So, all right, change of redirection.
So that's that. You know, so I grew up not speaking English.
Okay.
But it was my dad that I can't even imagine uprooting your entire family.
I can't either.
Oh yeah.
From
And
everything you know,
hugely
from
a
everyone
challenge.
you know.
Oh yeah.
To go to another place where you don't speak the
Talk
language.
about out of your
And brand
comfort
new.
zone.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I always got to give all the love and appreciation and respect to my mother and father who went through some incredible challenges, but they made it look easy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's outstanding.
So it is pretty incredible, Adrian, that you grew up not speaking English, number one, but also that no college education.
Nope.
You grew up in a very, very tough neighborhood.
Yep.
And how does one go from that to all your accomplishments of working with the Houston Police Department for 23 years, elected as sheriff, city council, now commissioner? Like, that's a pretty incredible road. Can you share with our viewers what that took, or what does it take?
You know, it really took two strong parents. And so for all the parents that are out there working hard and struggling and providing for your children, my love and respect for you, especially the single parents. The reason I say that is because in my neighborhood, I was, as you alluded to, I would always tell people I grew up in a tough neighborhood where tough things happen. Didn't have to become a police officer to know what a knife or a gun can do to a person. Saw a lot of my friends lose themselves and their lives to drugs and inhalants out in the community. Saw a lot of my friends get arrested at an early age. So the influences to go down the wrong path were there on a daily, if not minute by minute basis. Back where I grew up, we didn't have air conditioning, so we would raise the windows in the summer so you could hear the
Oh my gosh,
siren.
you grew up in Houston?
The sirens going through.
How does one survive?
Hey, look, a wooden floor sometimes was the best
wood
cooling.
floor,
So forget tough neighborhood, tough surroundings.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was the fact that my father just never complained, always worked hard. He had his own automotive shop eventually, and he would you would see him work in the hottest of days, not complaining.
Yeah.
You'd see him work in the most freezing of days,
Right.
not complaining. And my mother was a janitor by night and a school bus driver by day. And then did an incredible number of things. Remember her being a pet groomer just to make a few extra bucks to make
Whatever it took.
Yeah, whatever it took.
So you witnessed this. You grew up with
Exactly.
this
So
mindset.
So I grew up just knowing that if you work hard, you can provide. And and I started my career with the Houston Police Department when you did not need a college education. Today you do, and I support that. And it just life and work and a commitment to serving and helping, I think, is what has blessed me through this incredible journey. Without that education, but I tell kids today that as the commissioner, I support education at all levels: pre-K, after-school programs, adult learning. because you cannot have the life that I've had for the most part today.
Right.
You've got to have some technical education, and you have, we're surrounded by science and technology. You got to know how to manage that. So I know that trying to repeat the life that I've had would be very, very difficult for anyone trying to do that today. And so knowing that, I try to give as much as I can to the institutions providing education for our children, as well as those educators who are working on a daily basis with our community to provide, to help open their minds and better prepare them for the challenges that are in front of them.
I think for our audience, what's fascinating about your story is that all of the temptation from adolescent was all around you, right? All the negative temptations were around you. And so you really, it sounds to me like you really, really focused on the personal and the guidance from your parents, your parental guidance. And it sounds to me like a lot of what they instilled was the high personal values, personal development, right?
Yep.
So, they always say you can't go any further than how high you are in your personal development.
That's
right. The lid is capped.
That's right.
And so I think that's really, from what I'm hearing, is really what got you to persevere from adolescent and teenage years and on up. Is because of your high level of personal development and your mentors being your parents.
your brother.
My buddies from back in the day, I still run into a few of them, and they would tell me, "Man, I remember that if we needed to find Adrian, we knew where to find him.
We knew where he was.
He was under a car or under a hood.
Oh yeah,
Working.
Working.
Working
on the car. Yeah.
My dad had me working, and that was his magic.
Oh yeah.
Because the days, and I imagine most people tend to have a day like this, is where you don't want to go to school. And I remember one time at middle school calling home and telling, or going to the nurse's office and telling her I didn't feel good, I needed to go home. And so she was like, no problem. So she calls the house, and my dad picks up the phone, and she says, well, this is the nurse, and I'm calling you because Adrian says that he's not feeling well and he wants to come home. And so she tells them, put him on the phone. And so I get on the phone. I go, hey, Dad, I'm trying to make myself sound sick. Dad.
Yeah.
And he goes, you don't feel well, do you? And I go, no, Dad, I don't know what it is. I don't feel good. And he goes, no problem. Why don't you come on home? Lay down a little bit. Close your eyes. And when you wake up and you feel better, I got a tune-up you got to do. I got a brake job. I got a transmission you got to drive.
Oh,
I got an oil change you got to do.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, well, Dad,
I'm starting to feel better, huh?
I kind of feel better already.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Man.
And my dad,
Very clever.
Yeah, my dad would tell me later on, he goes, look, you got two options. You got to either learn to work with your mind or work with your hands.
Or work with your hands. Or one or the other. That's right. That's powerful right there.
That is powerful.
Pick or choose.
And as we were growing up, I mean, how my brother Bernardo was able to accomplish what he did. He was in his time, he was mayor for a day, because he was the top achieving academic student of HISD. So part of the recognition back then was to acknowledge a student from the school district to be mayor for a day. And it's something I'm actually replicating as the commissioner. I recently acknowledged Anthony Suniga as commissioner for a day. But the reason I mentioned that is because my dad's rule was pretty simple. You come home from school, you work, and you do a good job. You fix this car perfectly, and then you eat your dinner, and then you work on your homework, and you do an A. You make an A. You do good grades.
It's very strict.
And
So
sometimes my brake job didn't work out as well. Sometimes my school didn't work out as well. But my brother Bernardo did it well on both ends, and so I always respected that. But it is, so my dad had a particular magic. I mean, and as I told some kids this weekend, there's no school for raising a kid, especially raising them in a tough circumstance.
Exactly.
So parents do the best that they can.
They do at the moment.
They do.
But we're a product of our
right.
environment.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And I believe there should be more mentors out there, because if it's a single parent or their parent's not around, there has to be some other mentors or people.
Oh,
And
yeah.
So I'm heavily involved with the youth and
Beautiful.
giving back and mentoring a leadership program.
Beautiful.
I'm very
Beautiful.
blessed.
Well,
to be able to do that.
if you haven't already been recruited, I'll try to recruit you for someone else called Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Yes.
Big brothers,
Of
big
America.
sisters.
I'm a big
Oh
proponent.
yeah.
I
Yes.
wasn't big for a while, and I support the organization.
They
wholeheartedly.
always need
Oh,
the doors
yeah,
always
yeah.
open over
And
there.
especially
This has
people
been-
of color.
Oh yeah, benevolent cause.
And so if you're looking for something to do, volunteer for Big Brothers Big Sisters of America.
Right.
That's
Yes.
powerful.
Big-
No, I
oh,
love
yeah.
that.
Great
I
organization.
believe if you can change a child's life, you can change the trajectory of their whole life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Be
I
that
agree.
positive. So let me ask you this. So I hear that you wear these black cowboy boots. What is the significance? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I'm wearing them now.
How did I know?
They're only cowboy boots, but they have my sheriff's
logo.
office
Oh yeah.
emblem on it, and they're sort of a bittersweet story.
Okay.
Because these boots are the most comfortable. I wear them every day, any day, all day,
Okay.
and I enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, though, is that they were made by a death row inmate. And I just remember visiting with this guy and asking him, what was it? I mean, you could be making millions of dollars, or at least extremely good money. He had a gift. Why would you do what you did, versus, following your trade? And he just, basically alluded to the story that we often hear too much, and that is drugs and bad influences put him on a terrible path. So I use these boots to remind me that, as my dad asked me to when I started my police career, he said, don't forget where you come from. And recognizing that there are a lot of young people in our communities, I still live in the same neighborhood I grew up, that are giving up on life or trying to. And so we all have an obligation to continue to be a role model and be a mentor.
Yes.
And get people to recognize that there's too much of life left, and you ought to fight for every single minute of it, because it'll bless you at a particular time. You just gotta work at it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to ask you a indirect question, because this is something that's always been in my heart, and maybe there are the individuals around your circle that can make it happen here in Houston. The public school systems, for example, elementary level, kids not having personal development inside the school system. So imagine if we could all go back. Some of us is further back, like myself.
Yeah, don't look at me.
But don't look at me, right? But when you were a child, just going to elementary school, for example, if you can imagine walking into the school and hearing on audio, if you will, Les Brown or Brian Tracy or Tony Robbins, right? The minds of elementary school students are at their most impressionable stage at that point, right? They absorb everything.
Yep.
So if they're hearing over and over and over personal development is ringing in their ears, then when they get junior high, high school, and then adulthood, what have you breeded at that point?
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
Crime
That's
rate
right.
goes down a lot of
Oh
things.
yeah.
And that's probably one of the one pieces that you really don't hear. How can we get personal development in the school system at the adolescent age?
Yeah. I'll tell you that I know that our educators, well, first of all, let me just say that our public school system is the first and most critical point of opportunity for all kids of all backgrounds. It is the system of success that can create an incredible amount of potential for our society and our community, for those kids who don't have the financial resources to go to some of the most lucrative other learning institutions. Nothing against them, but we have to support and protect our public school system, because it's the only thing a lot of kids will have. to that end, I've been blessed that I've had an incredible and very interesting journey. First of all, I started off in a elementary school that was segregated. I was Hispanics at the time were classified as white, so this was considered an all-white school. But then there was a child that tried to come from an all African-American school to my school and was rejected. So the school district was sued on the premise of Brown versus the Board of Education. So the settlement was to do racial integration between the two schools, beginning with the two schools, between Sherman Elementary and Crawford Elementary. And so that happened. There was incredible protest and controversy around it. My sister and I were the only ones that got on the bus that day. And but I remember my teachers at Sherman telling me, Adrian, don't worry. They're really good people over there. So I get to Crawford, and I just meet kids. And then another thing happened. HISD starts the first magnet school in HISD, and it was at River Oaks Elementary. And it was called the Elementary School for the Gifted. Man. So then my teachers at Crawford are telling me, don't worry, Adrian, they're really good people.
Nice. Yeah, they're really good. We'll take you over there.
Happening here.
So I think to the point of personal development, I learned to respect diversity and understand it at its most fundamental level, and that is as a kid.
Exactly.
And then through every experience that I had, especially at River Oaks Elementary, which is why I'm such an advocate for creating as much learning space and learning opportunity for our young people at the most earliest ages, is that, look, as a kid, I learned French, I learned computer programming, I learned about physics, I learned to play chess. I got
all right.
Trying to figure out your path.
Yeah. Well, I
just had a lot of interest.
I just had a lot of interest and a lot of opportunity to understand any one of those interests. And I learned. I earned a scholarship to the School of Fine Arts. Had a little bit of the talent that my brother had. But at the end of the day, all those things together really help to formulate a lot of who's sitting in front of you. And that is that, we, number one, have to understand how we all coexist together, and we have to respect that and work with that.
Exactly.
And then secondly, if you look at all these things, I want to make sure that, especially today, that there's not a child that's not being exposed to STEM, to science, technology, engineering, and math, and art, STEAM, as they now refer to it, because this is our life, whether we want it or not.
Very much now.
It's our
all
life.
4 of those components.
That's right. And especially for young ladies, Tatiana, that we need to make sure that those arenas of engineering and science give our young ladies an opportunity to participate as well. And so I think our public education system is critical. I think it's doing a lot better than we give it credit for, because we're producing some incredible success stories today that otherwise may become a part of the criminal justice system.
Exactly. Yes, indeed. It's that's our foundation. That's everything.
That's it.
It's our foundation. I like to hear that because that subject comes up not as much as it needs to, right? And so when it does come up, there are audience I know is listening right now on how much of an impact that can be to a whole community.
Yeah, and Carl, if I could add this, to your audience, I'm a big proponent to giving back. So if you've got a few minutes, go down and register with the school district as a VIPS, as a volunteer. Person. There you go. It works for me. But register to be a volunteer and read to the pre-K students, read to the kindergarten students, read to the first grade kids, because I think that's how we can really help them and be a part of the success of our public school system, because it is unfair for us to bring our children to a school and say to the teacher, you fix them, you make
exactly.
them better.
Drop them off.
And then I'll pick them up when they're better.
Yeah.
We all have a role to play.
We do.
That's
But
right.
It
That's
does.
right.
It starts in the
Oh,
home.
yeah.
That's right.
It starts in the
That's
home.
right.
But we as a community can make a difference, and each and every person can make that difference.
That's
That's
right.
right.
That's
We have to take action and do something.
All about it.
So what do you value the most?
What do I value the most? I guess my family. You know, look, I've been blessed, and in many regards, I've a beautiful daughter, and I'm watching her spread her wings and fly her own
What does
journey.
she do?
She is working for a international placement firm. She is a Longhorn. Go Longhorns.
Okay. Longhorns.
She graduated with a double major in international relations and government. So
Okay.
I'm just in awe of her. I'm her biggest fan.
Biggest fan, yeah.
Right.
And but I'm still the former sheriff, so she's got a boyfriend now, and I'm watching you, man. I'm watching you. And I still got my guns.
Oh man, I love it. I love it.
So I value probably my daughter above all things. Nothing
Yeah.
against
Oh,
my
yeah.
my beautiful wife, of course, but when you have given life to the next generation,
That's right.
you
It's your offspring.
and
That's
you
carrying
tried to provide them as much guidance, and sometimes she's like, Dad, yeah, whatever, I got this. But it is my family that I value the most.
You're letting
That's
her spread
outstanding.
her wings
Oh, yeah.
and fly.
And obviously got to give support and respect to my wife, who was a big part. I was
course,
always
it takes
working.
two.
Oh, yeah.
I was working crazy hours. So she filled in a lot of the gaps of my crazy schedule, whether it was while I was with the police department or and then in the elected office. So I always give that respect and appreciation.
Outstanding.
Absolutely.
You've come a long way in your journey, and so let's say the next 24 months, short term and then long term, what do you want to have happen on a personal, professional level in the next 2 years?
On a personal level, I'll say I want to lose some weight.
Okay.
Better shape.
I can help you with that.
I enjoy reading and I enjoy
Okay.
traveling, so I want to continue to do that.
I can help you with that too.
There you
We all like to travel, right?
But
Yeah.
on a professional level, as the commissioner of Precinct 2, I've got an area that has an incredible amount of challenges. I tend to describe Precinct 2 as the precinct that has amongst the lowest medium income. It has amongst the lowest home ownership rate. It has amongst the lowest educational attainment rate at the high school and post-high school level. It has amongst the highest number of children and families without insurance, health insurance. And it has amongst the highest rates of cancer
Okay.
in all of Harris County. So these are the challenges that I have. So every day I wake up knowing what I have to work on. So whether it be the short term or the long term, it's to go to sleep at night knowing that I'm doing something to make people's lives
Better.
and to make sure that we're making their government work for them in the best possible way, and providing them a representation that they haven't had. And so I am. That's what I'm committed in doing on a professional basis. But it's also to make sure that I recognize the fact that I don't do it alone. I've got an incredible team that helps me with that, but also making sure that the community knows that they're welcome to join us in this effort to move these needles in a better direction.
Takes a team to move
That's
them
it.
out. That's right.
Teamwork
Yeah,
makes the
teamwork.
dream
Oh
work.
yeah,
That's it.
definitely.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you so much for spending your time with us here today.
Yes,
honored.
indeed.
Thank you for
Yes,
having me.
indeed.
Very, very, very grateful for the extraordinary commissioner, Adrian Garcia. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. And remember, every Monday between 12 and 1, you can catch us here, same place, same time. And also, please go to it'sallaboutpizazz.com and subscribe, share it with your friends. Like us, and we want to give a big shout out to our host. Karina is not here with us today,
Yes.
and we want to give a big shout out to her, and then also thank our sponsors.
So our sponsors, guys, are really, really special to us because they're the ones that made a huge impact on bringing this show together, putting it out there, and bringing impact makers and extraordinary people like Adrian Garcia on this show. And so with that said, Esquire Robert Markland, Larco Realty, Martinez Boxing Club, Lush Boutique, Alicia Springer, that extraordinary social media queen herself, that makes this go live on all our social medias. And we also have our no other producer extraordinaire, Brent with Bogart Entertainment. He is here in the house, and so we definitely want to give tutelage to him. And then we also have our photography. She is extraordinary in what she does all over the country. Nikki Chernette is also with the Bunny Experience. So we are here to keep making a positive impact in the community with all of the lovely people that we bring on this show. And look, at the end of the day, it's all about pizzazz.